We are live, officially live. All right. I'm coming off a half-hour break because we did finish my track today for the first time in a long time. We had a little break between episodes, which is nice. I'm not in the chair for 3.5 hours straight.
Right. It's like an air shift at that point, because when you would take an air shift at a radio station, it's like 4 hours and you're there the whole time. So
is that what you would do? At Seattle, you would be on for 4 hours straight, pretty much?
Well, yeah, back before automation was everywhere, you would go in, you'd stack your music for 4 hours and you would be there and run everything manually because it was before computers could run everything for you. So
right.
Yeah, it used to be a real-time 4-hour shift. So
that's pretty
crazy. It's exhausting too.
Yeah, I bet. Well, anybody that's just dialing in, there are just two of us here today, but the show goes on. You are watching Dope or Nope. I am here with JB. You know him as John or at McDizzle. United States radio veteran, has broke records from, well, I'll let him speak to it. Who have you broke records from in Seattle besides Disco Fries?
Right. Well, Disco Fries for sure. But we've been first on songs from like everything from Enigma and Eiffel 65 to, we were also the first station to play Calvin Harris and Lady Gaga. So
that is freaking crazy.
And I was there from the early 90s. So, we were also playing music by like Two Unlimited and Culture Beat and, all those 90s big dance bops. So
I had no idea you were one of the ones that helped break Eiffel 65. So there's no get a reinterpretation without that original. But I didn't know you guys were first on it.
Yeah. Well, I found it on Napster and, noticed that it was doing really well. And we put it on the air, downloaded from Napster. I guess I can admit that now. And then Brett over at Universal saw it on our chart and went and listened to it and discovered that it was actually Universal's record. And that was sort of the start of it being worked over here.
Crap, that's insane. I had no idea about that story.
Yeah, I've done a few things like that before. And actually, it was Brett that reminded me of how that all went down when I was talking to him, a couple of years ago. He's like, you were the one. And I was like, thanks.
I don't think we've had him on for an interview. I gotta give him a shout because stories like that would be great to have captured. I most people don't know about this stuff, and I think it's really cool to hear about it and hear not just where people come from in their experience, but like the fact that you were an integral part of dance music culture at specific moments happening is super cool.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of a lot of that for sure. I mean, because I love this music. It's driven me since I was a child. So I was super lucky to get into a position where I could manipulate it and decide whether or not to play things and all that
Love
stuff.
That. Mm-hmm. And I'm Nick Dietrich, one half of Disco Fries. We also have FinishMyTrack.com and Liftoff Recordings. I know most of you guys in the comments already. Rimnez, Versu, I see you there. But yeah, if you don't know what we do on Finish My Track, we interview a lot of guests like JB and others to help uplift our industry and help up-and-comers, find a path and find the way to break in. And then as Disco Fries, you might know some of our records. And if not, I suggest you get on over to your favorite music platform and check us out and give us a shout out once you do.
For sure. They've got good stuff.
Thank you, sir. So we've got some good tunes in the queue for today, and I have them all pulled up. We might as well jump right into it. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
So first one up, we got Dante Castillo with El Hacha. Right here on Dope or Nope.
Yo no soy
cut it there, but I kind of want to hear what happens.
Yeah.
That's Dante Castillo with El Hacha. Nice one.
Yeah. Nice feel to that. I kind of liked that little siesta break there because it was going hard right before then. And then it just artistically ramped itself down, which was nice. You know, you could, like I said, catch your breath and then it starts, you know, building back up and back into the energy. So I like the structure a lot. I would love to hear more of it, I suppose.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I thought the vibe was great. Instrumentation's awesome. It feels really authentic. My one critique would be some of the sections. These types of records almost need to feel like live in a way and natural. In some of the sections, it just repeated a little too much without any variation, where it starts to feel like a loop. And I think that would be from a production perspective, that's the thing to try to steer clear of. So even if it's just like one extra little flare in the percussion or some kind of ear candy to change it up just a slight bit, so it feels live in that, especially in the percussion, I feel like that's super important. So I'd make a note of that. Also, I love that breakdown section where it gets kind of melodic, but even just looking at the waveform, it's a bit louder than the drops and it's a little bit more full sounding than the drops. So you might want to dial it back a little bit, either offset that by bringing your drops up a bit more, or just dial this section here.
This part makes me smile.
I love it. Just some volume automation could help it out a little bit, but it's super cool.
Yeah. Nice one. Dante Castillo, huh?
Dante Castillo, yeah. Go
Good
check
job.
him out.
I'd be interested to know whether or not that was like a vocal that they pulled from somewhere else and sampled and used, or if they actually had somebody go in and sing that.
Yeah, I would love to know. These vocals are really hard to do very well, so
yeah.
I'd be curious about that. Dante, drop us a line if you watch this and catch it back.
Hit us up.
All right, let's roll right into the next one. Our buddies Mesa and Boss with Escape. And, of course, they're good about this, the Dope or Nope edit.
You're everywhere that I turn, feel like I'm losing it. It gets so hard to discern what's reeling in my head. I should be more concerned, but I don't think there's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. There's no escape, you're in it. I see your face everywhere I
Mason Boss with Escape. Nice tight edit, too. Minute 30, right on the nose.
They've done this before.
Yeah, just a few times. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a half bell. And
Nice.
I love it. I love what these guys do. They're super consistent. I feel like they've already nailed their brand, and they're just getting started. But I feel like their brand is all there, and like that goes for like their sonic palette is very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Record's really cool. It's like the vocals compelling. The drop line is compelling. I do want to hear that sound be a little bit more unique in the drop, so it sounds more special and more like something I haven't heard before. So I think that could be playing around with some layers on that sound, but in general, I think it's really dope, and I'm very curious to hear where it goes for a full version.
Yeah, me too. I'm wondering if the vocal comes back. You've looped this, right?
Yes.
Right. So I wonder if the vocal comes back in any capacity and whether or not they slow it all the way down again. But I mean, these guys, they know how to make gorgeous music. I mean, really compelling stuff. And I would be surprised if they, weren't super successful at this format at some point. So they know how to bring the drama. They have really slick production, and go Mesa and Boss.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna own this genre soon. It's just gonna take getting up to bat a bunch and putting out a lot of records. And we, shameless plug, have one coming. Well, one just came out on Liftoff from them, and they've got another one coming. So super excited for the future of what they're doing.
Yeah,
that's a nice
good
one.
job, guys.
So with a record like this, when it comes to radio, hearing the stuff from Morton that's worked at radio, what has been, because typically records like this haven't worked at radio in the past because they're so big and it's such like it's not always friendly on the listener's ears if you're getting a passive dance music fan to hear a record this big.
Right.
So how do you, as a programmer, how have you in the past, separated the ones that are like, oh, this is too much from like, no, this will work? Like Kill Me Slow with Guetta and Morton, massive record, but clearly catchy, and it worked at radio. How do you separate the two?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, luckily I was in a position to do trial and error, so like with a record like that might sound like it's a little bit too much for regular rotation right off the bat. I had, specialty shows and mix shows that could sort of warm it up, and we could kind of gauge how it was being received there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a case by case basis. Some of these records just like this can break through, which is why I was kind of interested to hear a longer edit to sort of see kind of what the entire vision for it was, or will be. So, So yeah, I think it's just a case by case basis, and good quality stuff.
Yeah, guys. So I know you're watching there. So that is your invitation to send back a full version, and just note that in the notes when you send it, that it is the full version of something we previously listened to. So, he said they do have a longer edit, so that'll be for another show. But nice work, guys.
Yep,
that was a good one.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving right along. Quite literally, this is Onacity with Be Movin' right here.
It's a funky, funky mood. Feel it, come on now, move. If you don't know what to do, follow me, I'll see you through. If you feel the burning fire and you wanna go higher, get down. If you feel the burning fire and you wanna go higher, get down. Down.
See where this goes. What'd you think?
So many interesting sounds I wasn't expecting in there. I can't even explain what they were, to be honest, but it's kind of going along, and then they just throw in this, quick stab of something that you're just not expecting. And I think that made me smile when I heard it. But yeah, I like the vocals on it, and I think it had good energy the whole way through. Might have benefited from maybe slowing down and then going back to regular tempo, but it's got a nice feel to it for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fun record. I do like the idea of the stabs. I think there's that piano that he uses there is pretty clunky, and I feel like if you want to tie the drop into the more melodic breakdowns, you could do something a little bit more chordal that sits nicer. And that's still just as stabby, and that feels kind of like it's impulsive, but it's a little bit more in line with the sonics of everything else going on, and I feel like it'll fit in a little bit better. I do like some of these quirky sounds, though. It's fun.
They might be clunky, but they add to the funky. So, thank you very much. I'll be here all hour.
I'll be here all night. I love it.
I
have nothing more to add to that. That is the quote right there. You brought something up to me on text that I thought was a really cool topic that we should kind of talk through a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll let you kick that topic off because I thought it was pretty interesting.
Sure. Well, ever since starting doing Dope or Nope, I've been learning a lot about kind of what it takes in order to even create a song. And so I was wondering if we could sort of review the steps that a song goes through from, it being an idea in the producer's mind to actually becoming released somewhere. How do all the pieces come together, and what are the pieces?
So I thought it was timely that you brought this up because we're working on a new club record that's just going to be like a solo Disco Fries club record, and the idea of the riff on the record started with me and this iPhone on my front porch, and it was just me like sounding out the riff or singing the riff into my phone in gibberish.
So you just had it in your head, and so just in order to get it down on something,
I just sang it into my phone.
iPhone. Oh, cool.
So then once I was like, oh, that is catchy, because it came back to me multiple times, I put it down into a synth, and then I sent that part, the benefit of being in a duo, I was like, this is my only idea for this record so far. Danny, do you have any ideas off of this? And so he spit out a couple ideas off of that riff. Again, like the power of a duo and the benefit of having like somebody to bounce ideas off would be that. So sometimes that's how records start for us. Other times, because we have more of a remixer background, we'll get a folder of top lines and we'll just start kicking ideas back and forth underneath a top line. And sometimes those aren't even like original vocals. Sometimes we'll just have industry acapellas, a Katy Perry acapella, whatever it might be, and we'll start making what might end up being a bootleg, or it might end up being us taking that vocal off and making it an original record.
Or having it resung or somehow adjusted for your purposes.
Yeah, anything like that. But we find it easier sometimes working that way because at least you have a foundation to work off of for melody and chords and ideas. Mm-hmm. And then, some of the artists that I manage and kind of give strategy to who are also producers, what they've been doing is they'll take a whatever track, an industry track that's out and blowing up. Let's say Paint the Town Red, Doja Cat. They'll take that, they'll do a remix of it, throw it on TikTok. If it starts to really work on TikTok, they will try to get it official. And if they can't, which most of the labels aren't paying for remixes at the moment, especially from up-and-coming artists, they'll just do a cover version. So they'll keep their instrumental and then have the vocal recut as a cover and put it out. So then you can juice TikTok to then push all that traffic to your original cover. So you're at least making revenue on the master side of that and building your Spotify profile.
Right, that's cool. So what I had heard on this song that I'm involved with right now was that the track was actually written and then sent off to the person who ended up being the vocalist, and the vocalist filled out all of the lyrics. And is that like I mean, that is a skill set to have, right? To just be able to hear a track with
Yeah.
nothing on it and be able to fill it with, lyrics that make sense, that resonate with people, and all of that. Is that a common path for a song to take?
It is.
It's
I
amazing.
mean, oh, it is. It makes the workload on the producer a lot lighter. Like with us, like of course we can write songs, we can get in the studio with a vocalist, track vocals, do all the vocal editing, but our forte is production. So if there's a tailor-made vocal to one of our records, instead of spending all that time tracking and like tuning vocals and stuff, we get to spend it on the actual production of the song and making that vocal, work with the track, glue it in, and then putting the polish on it, finishing it per se.
Right.
So I think that it's worthwhile for a producer to know every aspect of producing a record, from tracking a vocal to tuning it to stacking it the right way, to mixing it the right way. But when you find a great vocalist or like a team that can do it all in-house and deliver you a final filled out vocal, be good to them and harness their energy as long as you can.
Got it. Yeah, like I said, I've learned a lot about the progression of a song from idea to demo to release, and I just wasn't sure how many of our listeners knew all of that stuff. So
yeah, like Lena Leon's record Spiral, which did really well on our label, is her solo record. We contributed to the production, but her vocals were like fully fleshed out and finished. I want to say like maybe we added a vocoder to one section, but essentially like our role in that record, besides the label side, was adding to the actual production. We didn't really have to do anything to her vocal, but typically with Lena, like she delivers a radio ready vocal that is finished. It's fully produced, it's mixed, it's like you hear it and it sounds like it was on a commercially released record. So there's not much to be done there, but she's a pro. And like there are others like her. The only challenge I think for up and coming artists and producers is a lot of those established vocalists can be expensive or just out of reach for what they can afford or access. One, either because of budget, or two, just from optics, like they might be a lot bigger than that up and coming producer, so they might not get the chance to work with them because they're not quite at the level that vocalist wants to collab yet.
Right.
So that can
makes
be
sense.
the challenge.
So that's an in for up and coming vocalists and up and coming songwriters and things like that to start, I guess, working with people in kind of in your same league, and then everybody comes up together.
Yeah, and I think there's such a need right now for original vocals that it's such a great time to be a vocalist, to be an original songwriter, and be involved in the vocal process. So even if you're a producer, I would recommend getting involved in writing vocals, be a part of the publishing side of records, because you never know who's going to really blow up. But also it's great practice, and there's such a need for original vocals. Like, how many vocals do we hear on the show that are all from Splice, and we might have heard that same top line over and over? If you can get in on the ground level and start collabing with a bunch of up and coming producers, I think it's a real opportunity.
Yeah, just basically a wave of new producers kind of all coming up at the same time. Yeah.
And the power of a collab, right? You tag multiple people on a track, it's going to reach their fan bases. It's not just going to stay with yours. And it's kind of a growth hack and a way to, not just on playlists, on socials too, right? You tag them as a collaborator, and then it reaches everybody's profile. And it's just, I love the power of collabs, especially with doing it on Instagram Live or doing it on TikTok Live. You can have collab conversations and you're talking about the record. Our record, The Edge, that we're just starting to work to radio now, we did on a live stream with Linny and Sarah DeWarren.
Love Linny. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're amazing. And like, we did that, the three of us, so we live streamed the whole thing. It reached all three of our fan bases when we did it. And now Sarah is the one who sang the vocals, so she's up front on the record. So she's tagged on the record. Zach Martino did a remix, so it's Disco Fries, Zach Martino, and her tagged. And it's just like every version of the record gets amplified because there's 3 artists with fan bases that are getting tagged. So yeah, love a good collab.
Energy.
It's pretty awesome. What have been your favorite collabs that have kind of come through over the years that you've been a part of?
Me? You're gonna put me on the spot with that question?
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much drawing a blank right now because I'm kind of in new music mode. But you know, I liked a lot of Kygo's collaborations that he did, bringing in different vocalists from different areas all together. You know, not even from dance.
Right.
So I think that kind of pushes the envelope a little bit too, and kind of broadens, you know, what's acceptable at the dance format by bringing in these other collaborators. So
Right.
honestly, though, Nick, I can't really think of a whole bunch of them right off the top of my head, but I mean, I love kind of everything that Calvin Harris has ever done as far as collaborations go. He's very careful about who he picks to work with, and you know, the quality of the songs really shows that he was doing the right thing by being, you know, very careful about that. So
yeah, I feel like he's a good case study, and Skrillex and Diplo obviously over the years have just consistently delivered is in terms of quality, but also like the level of collabs, and not just being like dance centric collabs. I think that's one thing with Calvin that was super cool, is like he went way outside of dance music to pull in, you know, hip hop and R&B and stuff.
Rag and Bone Man, and yeah,
and it just it expands the reach of who he is as an artist. It's also cool for a core Calvin Harris fan to be like, oh, this guy's versatile. Like he can hang with musicians, like not just, you know, he's not just tinkering around on a synth. Like he can for real play and do
the flavor of the week by any stretch. He he burst onto the scene and never looked back. Really, I mean, pretty impressive.
Well, let's keep it moving here. We got another one from Q Burger. Are you around? Let's go if this volume's gonna work. All right. Awesome.
You ever dreaming and craving for more? A party just starting when you were ending your show. The spotlight on you, a free ride on snow, keeping you warm like in the arms of my mom. Bring me some roses, some flowers to see. Give me your love because it's love what I need, and I need some more. Keeps me on my feet. Are you out there and where are we ever meet? Oh no, and are you around? Go, go, till you be found. Oh no, and are you around? Go, go, till you be found. And I need some more. Keeps me on my feet. Are you out there and where are we ever meet? Hey, are you still dreaming? Do you want more? And I'll be waiting till the end of the road. And yeah, why are you waiting for years for something better that may never appear? Bring me some roses, some flowers to see. Give me your love because it's love what I need, and I need some more. Keeps me on my feet. Are you out there and where we ever meet? Oh no, and are you around? Go, go, till you be found.
Nice. Q Burger. I don't know if he's going by Quentin Burger or Q Burger these days. Are you around?
Q Burger sounds like something for lunch.
Yeah. I like this guy. We've heard a few of his tracks over the past few months. There's one that we're supposed to be digging in on soon. But he does sing all his own stuff.
Okay.
And he produces it too.
I really liked the vocal, and I really, for whatever reason, the melody that the vocal is sung in just hits my heart. I love that structure. I love that sound. I think that at one point, kind of I don't even really know what was going on, but the instruments were kind of drowning the vocal out a little bit. So if there was a way to sort of bring it forward, we'd be able to sort of hear the words that were being sung a little easier. But I'm kind of amazed actually how much this really just hit me right here. So
yeah, his every time we hear his vocals on tracks, I really like it's just like a unique sounding vocal, but it feels familiar in a way. But it's pretty special. I think this one, I like the chord changes, I like the melody ideas on the vocal. Maybe could polish up some spots on like the vocal delivery, but overall, love the vocal, like the vibe. I think the biggest thing here for me is the production just doesn't sound quite polished enough. So I think you can maybe like punch up some of the drums. I'd be curious to hear this where it sounds a little bit more organic, whether you take some like acoustic guitars and fill it out there, or like instead of electronic drums, it feels a little bit more live. I think just from the nature of that vocal, you can get away with doing some of that stuff. Because it's not like, it feels raw. Like it feels like raw emotion. It doesn't feel like overly processed and auto-tuned or anything. So I think you get away with doing some more indie sounding moves in the record, and that would be cool.
Can I please have a bell? I'm gonna have to.
Oh yeah.
I really just think there's something to this song. It's just, even just hearing it in the background while you're talking, I'm just like, oh yeah. Something about the way it was built was just, it's speaking to me. So
that's awesome.
Good job.
Nice work, Quentin. All right, we're gonna go to Rimnez, a fan favorite here, with Bring It Back, right here on the one and only Dope or Nope, here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Let this ride for a second.
Okay.
The one and only Rimnez would Bring It Back.
Yeah, to me, it sounds kind of like the kind of thing that one might play at a festival, you know, to sort of get everybody kind of amped up. Bring it back. Yeah, keep bringing it back. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a bell. A bell with a caveat. There is one thing that I would have a look at. Love the energy. I actually really agree. This would be an awesome intro record. Like if you had some sort of cinematic build-up just for a show intro, and then you went into this build and took it here right off the first record, I feel like people would go nuts. That's such a good like kickoff record to a set. My one thing was when the vocal came in, it's not quite in the, it's it's definitely pitched, but it's not pitched to the right note of the song. So it sits like a little bit weird. I'm not mad at it. I like the fact that there's at least something that tells you what the name of the record is. So when you walk away from it, you remember.
That's a good point. A lot of records don't do that.
Yeah, I would just take a look at the pitch of the vocal. Where is it? Back. Dun, dun, dun. It's got to go up a couple semitones to get to the root note of the track, and I think that would serve you well. Really dope one. Would be a great fit on Liftoff. I already sent it to Danny. I don't know where you're looking, but just gonna put that out there in the universe and leave it at that. But yeah.
Yeah, nice one, Rimnes.
Good one. He said, you got to check your emails, Nick. I have a lot of stuff I sent you. I guess I do.
You're behind the times, man.
I guess I am. JB, when are you starting your label? When does that happen?
I probably have to talk to somebody like you to kind of get some ideas about what that all entails. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the future's wide open, as Tom Petty once said, and I'm interested in all of that stuff. So I'll keep you posted. And in fact, I'll probably call you for advice. So
yeah, no, I would love to see what that looks like. That would be super cool. And I'm sure everybody here would be happy to have more options than me and Lauren.
We're really missing Lauren's hair this week.
I know. And you don't want to see mine under a hat. It's going to be a head. It's not good. All right, we're going to go to our buddy DJ Kirk, always delivering good stuff. And this one is called Hold Me Tight.
Cause I'm sick of all these lonely nights. One more time, want you to hold me tight. Cause I'm sick of all these lonely nights. One more time, want you to hold me tight. Hold me tight. Hold me tight.
Kirk with Hold Me Tight. Some really cool ideas in this one.
Yeah. I think my only comment for it that makes any sense, you should see what I wrote here. But maybe part of it could feature a longer bit of the vocals so that it wasn't just the same refrain going over and over again. Maybe just give us a little bit more of vocal to sort of keep it popping, I suppose.
Yeah, I really like the vocal and kind of the vibe he sets up. I like the idea of the drop. I just think some of the sounds, part of it's the bass line and how that sound sits.
There's a lot of low end there.
Yeah, it's not quite defined enough, and it doesn't sit quite right in the mix. That and the kick I would swap out, and I think that both of those kind of work in tandem, and that would be helpful to make this whole mix pop a little bit. There were parts that And then that top synth melody, I'm not mad at the melody, but the sound itself feels like a placeholder. It feels a little generic. So again, like, I think it's got a lot of great ideas. And I especially like these breakdown sections where it's a little bit more stripped back with the vocal. But the drop isn't quite there for me as far as like sound design in the mix, but headed in a good direction.
Yeah, it's great for a demo. I mean,
absolutely.
It's better than any demo I've done.
When do we get to hear those?
Yeah, maybe next week.
All right. Sweet. Well, we didn't have a ton of submissions this week. I guess people knew, like, oh, there's only going to be 2 of them, so we'll keep it light.
Right.
But we do have JM, Alex Robson, and another James. Oh, the name is Another James. Okay, cool. And this record's called Missing You.
Now there's nothing that compares to how much I'm missing you. I didn't want you, now I do, yeah. I try to stop catching feelings, but you are already in my head. I'm trying to think of the reasons to how you ended up in there. Oh, I closed the door on us a long time ago, boy, but somehow you ended up back on my mind. I tried to walk away, but something made me stay. Now I'm missing you. Now there's nothing that compares to how much I'm missing you. I didn't want you, now I do, yeah. I'm missing you. Now there's nothing that compares to how much I'm missing you. I didn't want you, now I do, yeah. I'm done always rewinding. Just wanna leave how we were behind. Yeah, I don't need no more reminding. Can we give it just a little more time? I closed the door on us a long time ago, boy, but somehow you ended up back on my mind. I tried to walk away, but something made me stay. And now I'm missing you.
Love that.
Now there's nothing that compares to how much I'm missing you. I didn't want you, now I do, yeah. I'm missing you.
All right, JM, Alex Robson, Another James, Missing You, right here on Dope or Nope. I really like that.
Yeah, nice energy.
gonna give that
Great piano. Yeah, give me a bell too. Let's
All right, 2
go
bells.
for it. It's unanimous. We love it. What great energy. I think the vocal was really good. The piano and on the first drop, it sort of the build-up seemed like there was a lot going on, but then when the drop hit, it just like was instantly clean and just really sort of unexpected. I love unexpected stuff. So,
Yeah.
so I was kind of delighted by that, and I think the song structure is also really appealing. So,
Yeah, agreed. I mean, records like this, they're timeless, and it's such a nostalgic sound set, but it just works every time. It reminds
Right.
me a lot of the record pieces that we did with Vassy and Bingo
that's a good one.
Players, and even Vassy's new one, Crazy. It's got like this type of vibe, but these songs just don't get old, right? Like Joel Corey's done this style of record a bunch, and it just works. You could do it 10 years from now or 10 years ago, and it would go over.
right, it's timeless basically. So,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they work really well in a club.
is there any fine tuning you would do to this one?
You know, I think
Curious.
the vocal is compressed a little hard and it's pretty up front, but like maybe for radio, that's fine.
Right. Usually that is fine.
Yeah, it's probably preferred. For me, like from a producer perspective, I'd probably want it like in the mix a little bit more, but it's that's producer ears, you know?
Right.
I want to
Is
hear
this
more
a
of the instrumental.
Is this a song then that, let's say everything checks out, everybody likes where it's at, do you now send it to mastering? Or
Oh
do
yeah,
you
so we didn't get to
master
fully
it yourself?
talk. We didn't get to finish talking about that. So yeah, life cycle of a song. So whether I come up with the idea on my phone or we get a vocal, we then work on the record. There's a lot of back and forth over Dropbox, and then from there, because we mix and master everything in house now, usually we'll pare it down to like, let's say there's 50 stems or 50 parts of the song going on in the session. We'll pare that down to groups, and usually about 10 to 12 groups. So it'll be all the drums together minus the kick. The kick will be on its own and the bass will be on its own, just so we have control over that stuff. But it'll be like snares, claps, hi-hats together, all the effects together, all like the lead synths together, the background synths together. So you're taking all these individual elements and you're getting them down into like broader groups. First and foremost, it cleans up your session so you can make sense of all these random things that you've probably added along the line.
They're
of
everywhere.
Weeks. Yeah,
You're
it's just
actually
a hot
grouping
mess.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also
makes sense.
allows you to go through the session and figure out, like, do I need this sound or can I get rid of this and the track is just fine, and that was just clogging up the mix. So it allows you to clean up the song while you're in that process of grouping things down. So once we have it into groups, we'll bring it into a mix and master session. So it'll be an entirely new, clean session without any glitches or plugins or anything causing issues. And because inevitably when you start adding all those things in the original session, besides cleanup, there's some plugin that you're having an issue with. It inevitably happens every time. There's some kind of issue with the session, or it's just a mess. So starting clean is a good way to get a new perspective on it. And then, like, if let's say I worked on the record, I'll send that to Danny, or Danny will send me his group session, and then I can take a look at it with a fresh perspective and say, like, oh no, this volume and this sound here needs to come up. And you're working in blocks at that point, and it's much easier to make big sweeping changes, or just finer detail changes, but you're seeing it from like a macro view rather than all these little components to the record. So it's just, you get a better perspective on what's going on.
It's nice that you have somebody that you can bounce your ideas off of too, because it's also a thing to be too close to the project and to have been working on it so long that you've lost sort of the perspective that you need to have in order to create it. I actually got a demo working at the radio station from somebody who was up all night working on this remix. And when I heard it, it was harmonically just a mess. And the version I had heard the night before was much better. So, so watch out, don't overwork it. And, share it with some other ears so that they can give you some true feedback instead of just like, oh, I could go back and tweak that. And, all of a sudden you've over tweaked it and it's not as good as it was before. So.
No, that's great advice. And the other thing we always try to give perspective to is what's going to be a change that actually matters versus a change that you're just doing for the sake of changing something.
Right.
Like what's going to shift the way a listener perceives it, or the way it hits in a club, or the mix? What are going to be those changes versus like either taste changes or things you're changing because you've heard the song so much that now you feel like you need to change it to create variation for yourself. So I think that perspective is useful, and it plays to your point of like, if you've heard something all night, you've worked on it all night, no matter what, your brain is going to want to change it because it wants variation from what you've been working on all night. And that's not always for the greater good of the record. So I think knowing when to step away, knowing when to turn off your computer and go do something else.
Call it a night.
Yeah, it is a really important part of the process. I forget who said it, but they said, if you can't put down the idea, the main idea, in like less than an hour, and you're working on it for hours, just like your main core riff idea of what the record's going to be, then move on. It should be simple enough for you to at least plug in the basics, and then you can always tool it up with bells and whistles and trick out the mix later. But the main idea should be pretty easy to get down. And if you're fighting to get it down, step away immediately.
Right. And maybe, some clarity will come to you when you're not really, thinking about it. So,
Totally.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Shout out to Bianca. Thanks for popping in and lending your
Bianca.
ear always. Spawn, Rimnez, of course. Mesa and Boss, thanks for dropping in. So what's going on this weekend? Anything exciting?
With me?
Yeah.
Well, it's fall in Seattle now, so I'll be digging out my hoodies and long pants, and lighting the fire instead of opening the doors and windows. All of a sudden,
Nice.
like in the Pacific Northwest, it went from peak summer, wonderful, to just it's fall, it's raining sideways. So that's what we get over here.
Yeah, Rimnez said he loves hoodie season, but I'm sure you could. I'm sure you love it, and then we'll have this conversation again in a couple of months, and you'll be like, I'm over it.
So done with these hoodies.
Yeah, that's awesome. Spawn said know when to hold. Kenny Rogers said it best: know when to hold him, when to fold him, when to walk away, when to run. That's
Yep.
great.
Good old Kenny.
Nice.
Sage advice.
Well, if you guys are around in the New Jersey, New York metropolitan area, we'll be DJing tomorrow at Ross Brewing in Jersey. It's us and the legend from Mallrats and many other movies, Kevin Smith, who will be there
Whoa.
from 6 to 7.
That's
Such an
so
odd
cool.
lineup, but it's going to be awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll be playing, because it's a brewery and Kevin Smith's going to be there, we'll obviously not be playing a straight-ahead banger set. You'll probably hear a lot of random records that we would never otherwise play, but it's going to be a good hang.
Remixes and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be full commercial. I might even throw in a country record. Might even
Whoops.
throw Kenny Rogers. Where you at?
There you go. I can't believe no one's reworked any of his songs yet. I mean, he was iconic AF, so it would be really interesting to see how someone would be able to use his vocals in a song today.
That is an awesome gem. So you've just given a bunch of people ideas on here.
Let's do it. Let's hear him next week.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we're going to raid into 4Guard. Just give me a second here.
Thanks, everybody, for listening today. We really appreciate your support. Anybody who wants to hear it after the fact can check us out on Spotify. You can submit your demos to dopeornotemusic.com. And yeah, let's raid.
We are going to raid right now. 4Guard. Maybe, if you'll come.
Nope.
Yeah, we're going. All right,
right.
guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you
Take care.
next week on Dope or Nope, 3 p.m. Eastern.